I guess one of the things I want to kind of start with was, I'm going to talk a little bit about the responder training, but the context of things, I think that in a lot of DOTs, our history has been pave it black and don't look back. And basically, DOTs have been about building new stuff. And I think one of the things that we've understand that asset management and operations are a big part of things. And so I'm going to focus a little bit on the operations a little bit. Again, we've built a network of roads out there. How can we operate things to make them work better? Again, traffic incident management improves responder safety and lowers the cost to society. But I mean, it's not just responders out there. If you look at some of the data out there, certainly we do have a lot of people in our industry, in related industries from, fire, EMS, law enforcement, towing, and everything that get hurt out on the roads. But we also have a lot of our citizens. We have a responsibility in our industry to make our facilities safer, and certainly one of the things we want to do is put the word out there. The cost of congestion is $400 billion is estimated. I know that a lot of people might question, well, how you come up with that number. Pretty big range of increase from 2008, but I think the bottom line is we all know that congestion costs our economy money. And one of the ways that we can be more competitive nationally and internationally is to be able to address congestion, move these dollars from wasted time to investment in our economy. We also want to look at the area of secondary crashes. I think one of the things that we see, and one of the questions here just a second ago was about law enforcement and other areas. In Tennessee, and I imagine in other areas, I have pieces of the interstate that under law, the people that are in charge of an incident is a volunteer fire department. And we see that all across the country, and so it's important for us to get out and try to look across our industry and have good collaboration to make sure that we can reduce delays. Secondary crashes, 20%, it's estimated 20% of all crashes are secondary crashes. I will tell you that many of y'all have heard of the Bonnaroo Festival. Bonnaroo is kind of like, it's this big music thing down in the countryside in Tennessee. And about midnight one night, we had a little fender bender, backed traffic up real bad. We got the crash cleared up, but this group of folks was coming in from Indiana. They were just parked on the interstate one night about midnight, and an 18-wheeler just slammed into them, killed them. That is just so unfair to be sitting there minding your own business, and somebody run over you and kills you. We've if we can do things to address these secondary crashes, I think we can have a significant reduction in fatalities. And I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. Again, I talk about the economic side of things as well. The effect on just congestion. We heard this morning about the metropolitan revolution. Congestion in urban areas is big. The reliability of freight is a huge issue as well. So I think that's a lot we need to look at. And I do think that from a sustainability standpoint, we also need to think about how does this affect the social and natural environment out there as well. And so, we just want to be able to move forward, and by improving safety and reducing incident duration, I think traffic incident management is really one of the most cost beneficial areas we can make investments today. So the SHARP 2 program, what are the objectives in the traffic incident management responder course? It's to improve responder safety, improve reliability, that's a reduced incidence duration. If we can shorten that time that the roads shut down, we can improve safety of not only our responders but also of the public. And so that is the key objectives here. It's really about safety, but you know, secondarily, there's huge economic benefits to us. So the approach is to look at the research core competencies and to include all disciplines. I think it's real critical for us to look outside of just the DOT environment and start looking at all the various responders, both public and private sector, that are going to be out there on the road. And we want to develop a multidisciplinary training program for all these stakeholders, and then do some cross-training in core competencies in this area. The course design will be developed so it can be taught by experienced trainers from all disciplines. I think that's critical, is to get the buy-in from everybody. And then presented in its entirety through selected modules. You know, one of the things that you can kill a training session is have training modules that aren't relevant to a large part of your audience. And so having short selected modules for specific areas of expertise, I think, is going to be important. The delivery mechanisms out there, you can see, we want to conduct, you know, use existing venues and central body, you know, to kind of have that training that can be used, you know, that's flexible in its approach, but also we want to be able to bring the various different types of instructors out there as well. Again, we want to train the trainer. Again, a multidiscipline full curriculum developed to the course, you know, as part of the Sharp 2 course. And where we're trying to get to is after we've completed it, then they can go out and build on that success. And I'll show you some numbers here in a second. It's pretty impressive that the numbers we already have out there today. We also want to do classroom training, and again, building on the train-the-trainer, we can have classroom settings and start reaching larger and larger audiences. So the implementation goals, we want to have the train-the-trainer in every state, plus DC and Puerto Rico by the end of the year. You know, 52 to 70, that's kind of a broad number. I don't know where, I would have said 50 to 70, but I don't know. But again, 50,000 trained this year is the goal, so pretty good numbers. If you start looking where we're at today, this is as of February. Again, 33 states actively training. We had 71 sessions, 7 new states, and again, about just under 35,000 responders. Look at the numbers a little bit different. You got to take out some of the train-the-trainer sessions here, but still about 32,000 just people trained out there. So we've had the train-the-trainer sessions. We had some pretty good success trying to get the training out there. Again, I think it'll be a huge benefit for safety out there. Let me catch up. When you start looking at by discipline, I think this is key, and I think from Colorado over here asked a question earlier about you know, getting this isn't just about DOT. You can see the big outreach out here is try to get the emergency services people. You know, historically, the fire department, the police chief, if there's a fatality, particularly if it's one of theirs, they shut down the whole road because they got to get out there, do the investigations. And that's still going on in a lot of places. But if we can get the word out and let them understand that, you know, when you shut that road down because one of our own has been hurt or killed out there, you could be causing more fatalities out there. So getting that training out there is critical. Look, we got towing and recovery. That's a critical component of it. I know a lot of states have done a whole lot to try to get the towing recovery industry involved. There can be a lot of politics in that industry as far as who gets called out. Last thing you want is a guy with a souped up pickup truck trying to upright an 18-wheeler. But certainly DOT's out there, and then there's a host of others, the hazmat recovery people. I mean, there's just all different types of folks out there that need to have this training. So we want to get some high-level endorsements. So this training program had a lot of outreach to bring in, you know, the chiefs of police, the fire chiefs, certainly ASHTO, FHWA, Volunteer Fire Council, you know, all different types of endorsement, because we want to make sure that we can get buy-in all across the spectrum out here. It's a, you know, it's a pyramid scheme, so to speak. We want to start with a few and have it grow and grow and grow. I don't believe we'll have OIG after us on this pyramid scheme here, but it's a good program, you know, that allows us to build. And what we have seen, and I'll show you some Tennessee numbers here in a second, but if you're going to find some real excitement in a lot of these different areas of expertise, the fire chiefs, highway patrol, the fire folks, when they start seeing some of this data and it starts clicking and making sense with them, you're going to get some real champions out there. And I think that's key when you start building champions out there, because there's people in the industry that, you know, all of the volunteer fire people look up to, all the police chiefs look up to. If you build some champions out there, you're really going to have an impact on safety. So in Tennessee, we had a train the trainer pilot, and from the evaluations, you know, we had 9 different sessions. 79% would recommend it to others. And, you know, just a huge amount of agreement there. Was that 90% or so? I gained an understanding of the need for coordinated incident management. That's huge. It's huge that we can bring these people in that historically looked at TDOT is doing, you know, one thing and their role is another. And by being able to get these folks to come in and get this amount of buy-in is really great. You know, it's based on an in-person training curriculum. So the e-learning session is going to be, and they're hoping to have that out in the spring of 2014. So what the goal of the TIM responder is going to be able to have, again, I talked about multi-level. This web training is going to be out there and allow us to be able to get something out there in a hurry for people that have an interest. You know, sometimes you don't have to drag people kicking and screaming. That there are people out there looking for it. This is going to be a tool for those individuals that are really looking for a way to do things better. If you look at the goal again, we need to train thousands of responders. We can do that through e-learning, in person, train the trainer, the advanced workshops, and then just basic executive level briefings to get that buy-in. And again, where we're trying to get to is have institutionalization of this process. When we get to that point right there, I think that's when we'll see the numbers dropping in fatalities and secondary crashes out there. Real quick, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in Tennessee. Again, overwhelmingly law enforcement has a lot of buy-in. I am very fortunate. The captain of our state highway patrol, and they're not a part of the Tennessee DOT, they're a separate agency of state government. You know, they are their number one law enforcement guy has buy-in on this. He's out there on the national level, and so I have just really got it great that he's really looking forward to try to do what we can do to reduce the things. We had an incident in Tennessee that we call the potato truck incident. I got chewed out pretty bad on it, but we had one night we had a truckload of potatoes spill all over the interstate, and Highway Patrol was in charge. They were out there. Well, we had people hung out on the road all night. We got our detour in place, but you know, when a school bus full of kids gets stuck out on the interstate all night long when they're just trying to go see the Christmas lights at Opryland, you hear a lot about it from the governor's office and stuff like that. So that got our highway patrol really excited. I had an MOA with them before that, but it got rewritten after the potato truck. Since then, we've had a steak truck, a load of onions, and you know, and some cobbler of some type. So we had a full dinner on the interstate, but the potato truck got the people stuck. So, but again, 49 sessions. We've had nearly 1,200 folks trained, and it's moving forward. Just again, the bottom line is life saved. To John's presentation a little bit, we've done some reorganization in Tennessee. We have merged our construction and maintenance units in our field offices to an operations strategy. They're getting all the training. We've created a traffic operations division in headquarters. My new director's name is Brad, but we've got to call him Todd, traffic operations division. So, we're trying to, we're really trying to ramp it up. We did go through our second, what did you call it, John? The assessment. So we've been through our second assessment just 2 weeks ago. We also, one of the outputs out of this, I mentioned that Bonnaroo fatality. We ended up creating a program called Protect the Queue, to where if there's a traffic backup, whether it's construction, maintenance, an incident, we're trying to get blue or yellow lights ahead of that backup. We implemented this back in July of last year. Looking at the data, we think that there's been a 4% reduction in those types of fatalities. That's not huge, but if you're one of those about 10 people that didn't perish, it's pretty good numbers. So again, we think that's a strong program. It does take buy-in from the top in your organization and buy-in from all sectors in the area. Again, we want to build synergy through here. In Tennessee, we've got real strong cooperation from both our Commissioner of Transportation and our Commissioner of Safety, which our Highway Patrol is under. So we have put together a new concept. We've brought these guys together, and we are actually, we advertised it last Friday. We have a facility we're going to be building. I'll show you a picture of it here. We're going to build a piece of a road. This is out at the Highway Patrol's training facility. It's going to has a four-way intersection, a curve, a freeway segment. We're going to, I don't know if we're going to use inflatable trucks or what, but we're going to dump some stuff over out there, and this is going to be training ground for not just Highway Patrol and TDOT folks, but where we can bring other folks in. Again, it's 1,500 feet of simulated road, transitions, cross-section changes. We're going to have a cable barrier and guardrail, an intersection, and and it also circles so we can get a guy driving a car around in a circle if we have to keep going through it. It's about a $700,000 project. We're pretty stoked about it. We think it's going to be a huge training opportunity for us, and so we're like I said, we're pretty excited. Again, it's located at our Highway Patrol Training Academy. We have, it's a professional class training environment. It's kind of an old building, but that's okay. We got lodging and food services there, and the guy that runs it, he always has white beans and cornbread out there, and having a good down-home food for you is kind of, if you don't want to feed them too much, they'll go to sleep, but white beans and cornbread will do you good and get you ready for the training session. So again, for more information, here's the contact information out there. Again, Brad Freeze is my Director of Operations, and you got Paul Jodden and James Ostrich as well. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions for Paul?
Yes.
Have you thought about including medical examiners as a responder?
The medical examiners, the courts, and the medical examiners and all those have been discussed. you know, through our governor's highway safety office, we have contact in those areas, and and I don't know if they've actually been to the training or not, but I know that through our governor's highway safety office, we've had some discussions with them in general about what we're trying to get to. And again, the courts are also another big piece as well, because part of what goes on in here is you know, if the courts, you know, when you got law enforcement doing all they need to do and the courts let people go, that's not good. And I do think that the medical examiner community is a strong opportunity for us out there. Yes.
Thank you. Paul, I think what everybody sees is these programs really are interwoven. There's a relationship everywhere within operations. And the question that I have is a lot of great ideas that come from the Train the Trainer program and subsequent TIM team meetings and those kinds of things lead to improvements on the engineering side for traffic management plans. And can you speak a little bit to how the engineering part of what gets done can be used to, in the future, provide for operations improvements so that the folks in the field have a better time of it when they're making their responses?
Yeah. You know, I mean, a good example of that was the cable guardrail, I think. You know, we were seeing a fair amount, and this has occurred all over the country, of median crossover type fatalities. So we started chucking cable barrier up everywhere, and it worked good, but the law enforcement community, particularly on the freeways, kind of came unglued and said, where can I can't pull anybody over. I'm out in the middle of the road now. And so I think that these types of collaborative efforts allow us to sit down together and bring those issues to the table. And instead of after we've done put in miles of something, that we're at the table together and we talk about the different things that we're doing and you know, how we can design a smarter barrier out there, for instance, in cable barrier, but just in general, it allows us that sit-down collaboration. You know, most DOTs have a pretty good working relationship with most of the law enforcement across the state, but some of the fire and rescue stuff, you know, my maintenance guy out in the field might have that interaction, but most of the upper management side of the department hadn't. This is allowing us to build on those strengths.
All right.
Thank you.